Folks, you're very welcome. It's now 11 o'clock on Friday the 20th of March 2020, and we're in very different times. And I'd like to welcome you all to Coffee with Colm Live, and in particular welcome our lovely guest this morning, Eva Gaffney of Miss Prudence Moneypenny, aka Prudence Moneypenny. Tell you a little bit about Eva before we kick off with a chat. I love that. Brandon mugs, vital. Eva's business name is Prudence Moneypenny Coaching. What does your business do? I asked. She said, money mindset coaching, primarily for women. How long established? Several years. It depends when you start counting. Interesting response. How many employees? Me and an outsourced team. Very good. Love that. Founder and owner of Prudence Moneypenny Coaching, the only certified money coach in Ireland. Soldier's wife, 3-time best-selling author. Entrepreneur, lover of all things purple. And then she goes on to tell us that her weaknesses include really good coffee. Happy days. That's not a weakness, that's a strength. Super fast broadband and nut butter on rice cakes. Projects in the pipeline include another book, World Domination, and an online course. And something nobody knows about Eva, she always puts on her left shoe first. There you go. So, Eva, you're more than welcome. Folks, thanks for joining us this morning live. Eva Gaffney, who is Eva Gaffney prior to and outside of Moneypenny, Prudence Moneypenny?
Gosh, who am I? Well, I'm the same person I was a minute ago, and the same person I was 50 and a half years ago, but we've just changed the way I do things. So I'm a parent, I'm an author, I'm a coach, I'm a daughter, a sister. I'm still all of those things and will continue to be all of those things. And I will still continue to run my business, but I will just do it slightly differently. So I'm still the same person I was.
Great.
Because I can't change, I can only change my inner world and I can't change my outer world, but my inner world hasn't changed. Sure,
but on the basis that not everybody on the call knows you at a deeper level, where you're from, family, just some basic details that you're happy to share. So get to know.
Okay, so a little bit of background about me. So I'm Irish. I live in Ireland. I'm a parent. I have an amazing son. He's 27. What's the number? 27. Yes, 27-year-old son. A gorgeous husband. Got married again recently. I'm the only certified money coach in Ireland. I'm a retired qualified financial advisor. Probably 20 or so more years in the financial services sector. 3-time international best-selling author, aspiring cook, and probably slightly obsessive, tidy person.
Okay, so there's a lot in that already. And you retired from, did you say financial management? What did you say you retired from?
I retired from selling financial products. Okay. It just wasn't really the space that I wanted to be in. I had no interest in selling life and pensions and insurance products and stuff like that. And so my own journey through to becoming a certified coach came from, as most people's, your business or the thing that you do, your purpose, comes from a life experience. So the reason I started to explore money coaching was having been left in debt. It's a bit I keep forgetting to mention because I just feel I'm repeating myself so often, having been left in debt, quite substantially in debt twice. And I thought, I'm a person. I know that I need more money in and less going out. Why am I repeating these patterns of behavior? And at the time I was working in debt negotiation and debt management, and I started to see very similar patterns in other people. That these were intelligent people who were repeating patterns of behavior that didn't serve them. And I thought, there is more to this. I'm not the only person who does goofy things. And so I started to look at the reasons why we do things and the whole psychology of money. And that then brought me on the field of money coaching. And it's a field of neuroeconomics, which is really, really interesting.
That's a phrase I haven't heard before, neuroeconomics. Do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I don't think I made it up. Maybe I did. But in a sense, it's it's how we think about money, the whole psychology of money, the reasons why we do things. And like in retail, we'll often use words like just and only, like it's only this or it's just that. And you know, scarcity breeds demand. This is, in simple economics, supply and demand. You know, that's very simple. But you know, why do we do things? Why do we buy the red instead of the blue? Why are we drawn to make certain purchasing decisions over? And especially when we maybe know that decision might not be the best idea at a particular time. So what are the drivers? We were talking about Anthony Robbins before we came on the call, and he talks about we do everything in life to avoid pain and gain pleasure. So it's understanding our own personal drivers, you know, and our own personal values is hugely important, and that has a lot to do with how we make our spending decisions.
And so this was all going on in your head over a period of time while you were still in full-time employment, is that right?
Yes, and there's a couple of things disintegrated at the same time. Is the relationship broke down, lost my job, the person that I was with at the time lost his job, and I found myself the proud owner of 2 mortgages and no job, no income, no nothing. How did that happen? And I used to say, you know, nobody wakes up in the morning 10 stone heavier. You don't wake up in the morning totally broke. But I now have to kind of eat my words, because it actually, well, it started so that, you know, in a sense it did almost happen to me, and it has happened in the last 2 weeks. The world has got itself into a bit of a tailspin. So I'm just very conscious I don't necessarily want to dwell on that, because it's not, you know, we know we don't need to keep talking about it. But, you know, sometimes we are gently encouraged to make a massive shift in our mindset and in our lives. And for me, it was being left, because I had to make the same mistake twice to learn from it. So it was being left in debt. Okay. And that's, if you like, is that the moment that you decided you needed to take control, and is that where Prudence Moneypenny came from? And then tell us about Prudence Moneypenny up until we fell off a cliff a couple of weeks ago, please. Yeah, I suppose where did she come from? I lacked an enormous amount of confidence. I just felt like such a failure. So everything I felt, which is different to it was a case. It was how I was perceiving things. So I felt that I was a failure as a person. I felt I was a failure as a partner, as a parent. I just felt I'd you know, failed with everything. And so then my confidence and self-esteem took a bit of a hammering. And that if I could be somebody else, who would I be? So it was almost like channeling my own superhero. So I said, if I'm going to start writing about the way I'm doing things, I'm going to start writing about the way I've been figuring out to do. What if nobody likes the writing, or what if people think it's tough, or I didn't have the confidence to write as myself. So we decided that I would write as Prudence, because being prudent is very different to being frugal. So being prudent is being very strategic. It's being smart. It's being lean in a very positive way. Whereas being frugal is, in a sense, it implies an element of scarcity. So that's where the first name about the line came about, because I was watching a Bond film that we needed to. I needed to give this person a hairstyle and a last name, and so occasionally I still use a cartoon, which is actually based on the photograph of me when I had longer hair. And then she just sort of evolved, and then people started to like what I was writing. Like what you were writing as she. I've seen the cartoon. Yeah, they did. And then I thought, I do still occasionally use that. People will never know it's me. And if it's really good, then I can just do this big reveal. So in a sense, it's a win-win. But if I need to speak or to do something that I think, oh gosh, you know, maybe my confidence isn't there, I'll ask myself, you know, what would Prue do? You know, so she just sorted out. You know, her house is always tidy, her hair is always perfect. She never yells at her kids. You know, I suppose she was everything that I wasn't. But you know, she is me.
Fantastic. I love the idea, by the way, of you separating out in your mind the two characters. So it's you or Prue, or can be both. But I'm a huge fan of brands, and I think you've created a brand in Prudence Moneypenny, which is outside of and beyond you. Yes, fundamentally it's you, but it doesn't mean it can't be applied to other stuff too, or that, you did say you work with a team of an outsourced team. So they're also Prudence Moneypenny. If they, I presume, come in and offer supports, they do so on behalf of the brand. Is that fair to say?
They do, yeah. Yeah, so in a sense, it was initially supposed to be I was going to hide behind this persona, but people buy from people, and I personally would be kind of reluctant to buy something from somebody that I wasn't really sure, is this a person? On the internet, nobody knows your dog. And so then I thought, okay, maybe I need to actually reveal that there is an actual person with a personality behind this. And then it turned into a brand. And then often things just take on a life of their own, and you don't always know where something is going to go. And it's maybe letting go of where is this going to go and say, well, I'll just go with it and see how far can I go instead.
I love that. I love that idea. And so tell us, how did your business work up until 2 weeks ago? Are you offering one-on-one client coaching? You work with companies?
Well, in a sense, nothing has really changed. The only thing that has changed is I would have delivered face-to-face classes, adult ed, through the Education Training Board. So because all of the buildings are closed. So that is the only bit of the business that has been temporarily halted. But the rest of my business is I do a lot of one-to-one. And my diary was just temporarily closed at the moment because I was doing other bits and pieces. And 90% of my business is online. I was moving it, and I'm moving it into to be 100% online. Nothing has fundamentally changed. I work remotely. My hiding places are closed, and I'm just not really used to the level of activity at Prue HQ.
Right. You did say before that your hiding places, you loved finding yourself in a library and that nobody would actually know that you were there.
Oh, I hide in also. I've been known to hide in ladies' underwear in a mainstream department store because nobody would think of finding some crazy person crouched down on a little comfy sofa on her laptop with her headphones in. So I have lots and lots of hiding places. So places that I would normally be hiding out in. I would actually, believe it or not, to do occasionally hide out in bookies because they open earlier than the library. Free tea and coffee, no bothers you, Wi-Fi, free parking, have Wi-Fi, have laptop, will travel. So that's the only difference is that my hiding places are closed and Prue HQ is a bit noisier than it would normally be.
Okay, really interesting stuff there. I wasn't expecting some of that. Very interesting, prior to the cliff fall a few weeks ago, very interestingly, I've just learned that your business was already 90% online. Go you. Go you. Was that strategic? Was that Prudence at her best?
Yes. Well, I mean, my long-term goal, and it's now a medium to short-term goal, is to, for the business to be completely online, to be location independent, so that it doesn't really matter where I am, but also would allow me to reach a wider audience. And I don't like driving. I just absolutely, in fact, I hate driving. I would so in my head, I have my driver, pulls the car in front of the house and we hop in and just go wherever. So I actually don't really like driving, so I don't like the idea of going from here to here to here to here. So if I want to cut down on my traveling, then, and I want to still be able to reach people, then I need to reach people in a different way.
Okay, but you're 90% of the way there, which is really exciting.
Yeah, so in a sense, it's just feel like the hands of time have just sped up. So my goals are the same. There's now there's been a massive cure for excuse-itis because I haven't got any more excuses. And and it's like thing is, like open plan living has been a thing up until about 2 weeks ago. But now I think when we come out of this, there'll be an awful lot of people building an awful lot of walls, as in physical walls. Putting back up, so that, we've nothing to hide behind at the moment. So there are no more excuses that I can come up with not to take my business 100% online.
Okay, which is great. But I think a lot of people on the call here today on the meeting have joined us, and people who watch the recording, I think a lot of them are probably starting way back and perhaps have got to just take the first steps online. Do you have any suggestion as to how anybody who isn't currently online, how they might do that?
I think it's be confident with yourself. If you're very, very nervous about kind of physically putting, and I mean physically putting yourself out there, like switching on the camera, then don't switch the camera on. Do a podcast, do audio. A lot of my earlier videos on YouTube, I'm hiding behind the camera, so you can see me just moving the cursor around the screen. I'm just showing somebody how to do something. Or if all of that is a little overwhelming, then write. Write a blog, write something. Realistically, like if your hair is sticking up, then so what? Like it doesn't really matter, because within about 2 minutes, people have stopped looking at as your hair is sticking up, and they're listening to what you're saying. And if you're saying your message is valuable, then does it really matter?
Well, really well said. I love that idea that if you're nervous of going from 0 to 100 miles an hour, well, just start. And I love that idea. Perhaps start by writing something, putting it out there under your own name or perhaps a pseudonym. The podcast idea, love that. And then gradually move yourself in front of the camera, because we're in a brave new world.
Or even, maybe volunteer, look for opportunities to be interviewed where somebody else is guiding, is asking you questions, which sometimes is a little bit easier than you with a big long narrative that you are convinced that nobody is listening to. So you ask somebody to interview you or to guide you through something.
Okay. Two quick questions, two last questions before we go to Q&A. And folks, we've been using this deaf community clap system on this Coffee with Colm Live. So when we get to that point, perhaps you'd all give Eva a round of applause quietly. But two quick questions then, if I may. Tell us briefly about the 3 best-selling books. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mentioned to have a copy of them handy, but then I'll put them in the I'll put them below the video. So the first book that hit bestseller was We Summit Together, the book project, and in that book is the first time I ever really talked about how I ended up massively in debt, and it's how I came out of that. And then I've co-authored 2 coaching books, Activate Your Life Volume 1, and because we couldn't think of another name, Activate Your Life Volume 2, which is they're very interesting books. They're available on Kindle as well as physical books, and it's coaching exercises. So whether you're a coach or a client or just anybody with at a turning point in your life, there is a coaching exercise in those books for you that you can either use on yourself, with a family member, with a client, or as a bolt-on to your existing practice, whatever it is. So all of those 3 books hit the international bestseller list. We Summit Together hit the Irish Times list, which was absolutely fantastic. And then I have other books out under Prudence, Moneypenny on Kindle, and another one in the pipeline.
Great. And you've left some of your social media links there so people can connect with you and get access to some of those resources.
They can indeed, yeah.
Happy days. What do you see for Prudence Moneypenny into the future when the veil lifts again? What do you see? How will it be different, do you think?
Sorry, I just missed the question.
Sorry. What do you see for Prudence Moneypenny coaching when the veil lifts, whether it's in 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years?
Yeah, where I see it is have a group program, so a mastermind group program, which is a very supportive, collaborative group I'd also like to have a pro bono section as well. Another book that I will hit the bestseller list with, and I think an online program as well, but definitely something kind of pro bono or in the background.
Sounds fabulous. So by all accounts, you're remaining extremely positive about the future, despite where we're at today.
Yes, but that doesn't mean I haven't had internal crises and wobbles and had those brief what's the point moments, but they have been moments, and I've articulated them and expressed them and argued with myself about them, and then I thought, okay, well, as my husband would say, he would say, let there be no panic, because if you panic, you can't think clearly. So he said, let there be no panic, and if there's panic, let it be organized. So it doesn't mean I haven't had those moments of, oh, crikey. So it's a day at a time.
Okay, let there be no panic. I love that. And then finally, if I may, Eva.
Yeah, and if there's panic, be organized.
I love that. If I may ask, Eva Gaffney, Prudence Moneypenny Coaching, one tip that you could give us all to grab hold of our financial situation just at this strange moment in time.
Just look at your banking, and where possible, pay by credit card. Now, as in, credit is not extra money, it's money you already have, you're just spending it in a different way. But particularly at the moment, if you are incurring charges, some of the banks are looking at waiving charges, your credit card doesn't incur contactless charges. It also gives you a little bit of breathing space, but just bear in mind that those expenses do need to be covered, but also make sure that your credit card is giving you some sort of reward as well. So mine is, the credit card I use just happens to be linked to a mainstream supermarket, so it's a win-win. Saying that in a sense is probably just to have a look at, if you are paying bank charges, some of the banks are waiving the charges, but it is a time to really look closely and prudently at everything.
Prudently as opposed to frugally, which is really interesting. I've learned the difference.
Which is completely different. Frugality is a very closed mindset of scarcity and not enoughness, but being prudent and being strategic is being smart. It's being efficient. It's being lean. It's doing all of the things that wealthy and successful people do, which is how they have become to be successful and wealthy. And I'm using wealthy loosely.
Sure, understand. So I assume you'd be very open to anybody who's on the call or who sees this video making contact, and the links are there for them to do so. You're okay with that, I assume? Absolutely,
yeah. I will open up my diary later on today, or just drop me an email, ask@prudencemoneypenny.com.
I think it's been a very timely opportunity for both you and I to come on and have this conversation because of just where we're at this moment in time. So I'm going to open up the floor to Q&A, if that's okay. We'll see who has a question. What I'd ask, if you've got a question, please, that you would stick your hand up, wave so that I can see you, and we'll open up your microphone. You can have a quick conversation with Eva. And as I've said to date on all of these calls, you're not all that shy. Has anybody? There's Eamon Smith. 2 seconds, Eamon. Eamon, you're live.
Thanks, Colm. Eva, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. I've actually been scribbling away here while I was listening to you. Can I ask you, like, from your perspective, from your view, you talked about your internal wobbles. I think we can all relate to that, and your crisis moments and your what's the point moments, and the importance of getting back to that kind of clear, higher, space where the thoughts come up. What do you do to get you back to that space when the crisis moments, when you have your crisis wobble moments? What are your tools, or what could you suggest to bring us back to that kind of clear headspace?
About throw everything at it approach. So yeah, I do lots of things. I'll breathe. Yesterday, it may be for a shorter period and breathe out for a slightly longer period of time. So breathe in for 4, out for 6. I'll go outside, get a breath of fresh air, do a 5-minute meditation on YouTube. I do a little bit of tapping. Sometimes it's called EFT or emotional freedom technique, and it doesn't suit everybody, but it's the technique that works for me. I'll even say it if I'll articulate my thoughts to somebody else, but it kind of almost only allow myself 5 or 10 minutes. Yes, I can have that crisis, set a timer, and I'm only allowed to have that crisis for that length of time. So it means I have to really, really go for it. And I do that if I'm in a bad mood as well. Just set the timer and say, okay, you have 5 minutes to curse and swear about this, whatever situation. When the timer stops, you have to stop. So it means I have to get all of the space of time rather than in that mood and ruining everybody else's day.
Yeah.
So there are some of the techniques that
a prudent freak out. Brilliant. I love that. Yeah. I'll try that. Yeah.
Just have a cup of tea. Sometimes just do something different, or maybe do something differently.
Change it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Great question, Eamon. Great question, Eamon. Thank you for that, and great response there, Eva. We're back to let there be no panic, and if there has to be panic, let it be organised. So there's 5 minutes to panic. All panic together.
Yep.
Next question from the floor, folks. I know you're all dying to ask questions, and you're pretending to be shy.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can ask me anything. Doesn't have to be about money.
I will ask you one thing then, if I may, Eva, and that is, I found it really interesting when I asked earlier about the one tip that you suggested we use our credit cards. And I found that a little counterintuitive. I felt that internally because to date we've been told that credit debt is bad. So I've just found that really interesting. Do you want to expand on that a little bit? My point.
Yeah, so I think I understand the question. Yeah.
My point being that we don't want people to max out their credit cards through this crisis.
No, absolutely not. So credit, let's say you have €100 in your bank account, €100, your limit on your credit card is €100. You don't have €200. You have €100 that you are just choosing to spend differently. So you're just using a different method to spend money you already have. And that's the real key to using your credit card. So if you make a purchase that costs €5 and you just happen to use your credit card, you do need to allocate that money, whether wallet, your bank account or whatever, into that fund. So let's say you buy €5 groceries, you need to allocate that money to the grocery fund. So when I say use your credit card thing, go debt or anything like that, all I'm saying is it's a free contactless payment method. Give you a little bit of breathing space, maybe if you are potentially waiting for an interim payment to come through, and just make sure that if you are going to use your credit card, that you're using a card that gives you a reward. Now, some people they feel that a credit card just doesn't suit their personality, and that's perfectly fine. You can use prepaid, or use the money from if you have money in your current account or cash in your wallet, lodge it to your credit card, because lots and lots of places are moving away from cash. So lodge it to your credit card, and that way, in a sense, you're sort of front loading it, if that makes sense.
Makes 100%. So in essence, don't spend money on a credit card that you don't have access to.
Yes. It's not money, it's simply a method of in a way.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for that. Folks, other questions out there for Eva Gaffney, aka Prudence Moneypenny, Prue for short. And lovely, Eva, that you referenced Orla's breathing technique. Yes, I see Orla on there. So thanks for that, Orla.
I did it several times yesterday, and it costs nothing. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't need any special equipment. Nobody needs to know you're doing it. And the difference it made. I could even just feel my heart rate coming down, because stress and anxiety, they're not good for your immune system. They're not good for your mental health. They're not good for tons and tons of things. And it's when people, Warren Buffett says, when this is done in the stock market, people panic. But when there's a sale on at the shop, people buy. So since there's a bit of a sale on in markets at the moment, but I'm not giving any sense of advice. But if you are going to make a purchase, just make sure that whatever purchase you make, making it from a place of conscious choice.
Really good. I have another follow-on question, if I may, on behalf of myself, perhaps, but perhaps others in the audience here, and that is, for many people on this call, income will have stopped. Perhaps 100%. Carambola, our school lunch business, is out of business for just over 1 week now. 120 of us have nothing to do, so ergo no income. So we're going to be looking for types of reinvention and other types of support that are out there. So we're back to the same question. How would you recommend people conserve what they have over this next period of time? What steps would you have people take if they're nervous about their income?
It's interesting because money is a means of exchange, and money as we know it today, that the pieces of paper with pictures and colors are a means of exchange. And it came about because it was easier than carrying around a goat, or I will swap you my goat for your cow. So I've done a few things over the last few days. People are willing to do an exchange. Like, I have this skill or talent or ability to do something that is particularly of use to you if you could do something for me in return. So with my neighbor, we swapped. She was looking for some AA batteries, and I swapped them for, it was completely unnecessary, but she felt it was necessary. I swapped them for a tin of tuna because she doesn't like tuna and somebody had given it to her. So that's what I mean. I had something that she needed, and I had tons of batteries, and she doesn't like tinned fish. So we made this exchange. So it's because I think people's discretionary spending will probably have depleted quite dramatically. I think government may well, and I have to say they may put something in place around utility bills, but in general, discretionary spending has probably almost been just, it's through the floor just at the moment. People just aren't doing a lot of the things that they would normally have done, but money still needs to move. So if you possibly can support a local business in some shape or form, then it would be a wonderful time to try and do that, either in the form of a voucher or something.
We're back to darling Prue, and we're back to being prudent, and as opposed to frugal. I don't have any goats to give away, folks, so I'm not any cows. But it's a really interesting concept there. We all on this call probably have something that could be of benefit to somebody else, and we're also perhaps in need of something that somebody else out there could offer. So let's get creative. Maybe I might suggest if anybody on the call here has a need, they might start by putting that need out into the universe and then asking what might they be able to give in return, if it's not cash, because you're absolutely right, discretionary spending is on the floor at this moment in time. Last word, Eva, before we wind up for today and give you the well-deserved bus.
Gosh, I feel almost, I have this strange sensation that somebody has the answer, and that for some reason it's like I don't have the password to life. And I think maybe this is what's making this most peculiar, is that we're not on the outside looking in, like, isn't that dreadful, turn off the television or whatever, or tune out the radio. So just be very, very, very conscious of who you're listening to, who you're talking to, what you're watching, and in a sense what you are feeding your mind with. So I've made a very conscious decision to tune out quite a lot of channels as such, and only follow people that are just saying something useful and valuable and are saying something other than talking about this current crisis. You know, a couple of years ago, nobody knew how to spell the word austerity, and they were chanting out, bail out the bondholders. But if you ask the question, do you actually even know who those bondholders are? So it became a bit of a mantra. And it was, or there was something else. Now, social distancing is an expression that wasn't on our radar 2 weeks ago. I like the idea of spacing. So by having space, it gives me space to grow. So just be very, very mindful of language, even the language that we use with ourselves, and who and what talk to and what you're talking about. And if something is sort of upsetting you, tune it out, because if it's really important, you'll hear.
Fantastic, fantastic. Eva Gaffney, it's been an absolute pleasure. Folks, join me please in giving Eva a huge round of applause. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Eva. Lovely to have had you on. And folks, thank you all for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, Eva. Absolute pleasure. I'll be creating a recording out of this and putting it out in the coming hours, or perhaps the next day or so. Delighted to tell you that the series will continue next week. We're going to go every day for as long as this thing continues. And I'm looking for to talk to wonderful people out there who've got something to say or something to share. And the very brave Nicola Connolly-Byrne has agreed to join us on Monday at 11 o'clock. Oh, there she is there. Thumbs up, Nicola. And Nicola, give us the, yeah, there you go. So Nicola Connolly-Byrne is going to join us on Monday at 11. And she said herself, she says, Colm, we'll never get this done in 20 minutes. So we'll see where that leads there. I'm not even turning your microphone on, Nick. Listen, folks, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'll see you all Monday morning. Eva Gaffney, thank you once again. Have a great weekend, folks. Stay safe out there. We'll see you Monday. Slán.